Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Fanalysis, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I'm Roti4, this is Greyjoy91.
Hello.
This is Evan95.
Hello.
This is Jen Sarai1.
Justin Loyal, unafraid of toil.
And this is Antoine Bandelay.
I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good.
So we're on chapter 16, Through the Trapdoor. Matt, do you want to take away with the summary?
Oh, I forgot about that part. I haven't done one of these in so long. So this is when they this is like the beginning, like the climax. Our heroes get ready to go through the trapdoor and try to secure the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone, sorry, because Voldemort's after it. And that's what happens.
Basically, yeah. It's the one with all of the obstacles. It's so much fun to discuss because we've been waiting on this one. So, opening up with the
We begin this
though.
thrilling climax with an exam.
The exams for the first time ever, which they get through as well as you'd expect for the first years. And they go down to the lake.
I mean,
post
going to
its
Binz's
celebrate.
class is kind of like a deadly challenge. Let's be real here.
Yeah,
But one thing that's funny to me, though, in retrospect, that would have never occurred to me as a child, is now having been to the UK, when it talks about like how sweltering like how swelteringly hot it is. I think, is it?
Yeah,
though?
no.
it's probably
By their
just, like,
standards, Matt. By our
yeah,
standards, it's not so much.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I would actually be able to understand their standards of sweltering hot because, well, I live in Alberta. I'm a bit further north than you Californians.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
just funny being around people.
Winter
that,
is coming.
It's boiling, and it's like it's nice and mild. What are you talking about? But anyway,
It's the same with the inverse of people from the East Coast who wear shorts in 60-degree weather, and they're like, "Yeah, shorts weather, 60 degrees outside."
yeah.
Fahrenheit,
I mean,
it is.
we found Scottish people that were sunbathing in the drizzle. I'm just saying, like literally. Anyway,
But yeah,
you're
we get
used to
the
it.
first scene by the lake post-exams, which kind of becomes a mild thing throughout the rest of the series, which I like. Brings a bit of parity between them and the Marauders as well, as we find out later. Very enjoyable scene. Harry's worried about something niggling in the back of his mind as the other two are celebrating their hopefully good results. And they go basically up to Hagrid as Harry realizes, oh, hang on a second, the thing I've been questioning is why did Hagrid get the dragon? And isn't that a bit unlikely?
Bit of
I
a
mean,
light-
it's almost like I have this realization because the plot needs to wrap up now, which is kind of the way it happens in the film as well. Like it's pretty much the same scene.
Well, even more so because they're literally just walking.
Yeah, they're
in
just, like,
school, and
walking
they're
around,
Wait
like-
a minute, like plot.
Yeah,
The
Yeah,
plot strikes, yeah.
it at least does make a little bit of sense because up until this point, he's been A, very resolutely trying to not stick his nose into things, B, been caught up with exams, and he's just finished exams.
yeah. And then he got
True,
back into
true.
Harry mode, like must
Right.
interfere again. This is like
Free hero!
this chapter is like the most jumping to conclusion, like chapter like on their part here. It's like, oh, like if I don't do this, Voldemort's gonna take over Hogwarts and turn it into a school of darkness. I have to stop him.
Yeah,
It's
just
also
like-
funny too because he could have done nothing and
Exactly.
still would have been okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best
I mean,
thing. He
Quirrell
screws it
probably
up.
would still be alive.
Yeah.
What
He
I would have done
almost
if
gets
I was...
it, lost to Voldemort. It's
Yeah.
entirely his fault.
What I would have done if I was in Harry's position was after getting Hagrid to admit, oh shit, I actually told someone. I would have been like, Hagrid, go talk to Dumbledore right away. Tell
Right.
him what you just told me.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't this the part where Dumbledore's already gone?
They do try to find Dumbledore,
Yeah, they
but
find
Dumbledore
try to find him
shit.
immediately afterwards. They
Purple.
run
Yeah.
away.
They run.
McGonagall heads him off in the hallway.
Yeah, they find McGonagall. They tell her they know about the stone, which is kind of a calculated risk on Harry's part because like, screw it, it's worth it. She has her amusing reaction. She drops all of her books and goes, "How the hell do you
it's
know
one
about
of her-
this?"
Yeah, it's one of her very few like bewildered moments, which is pretty interesting when you consider what her character's like.
Yeah, she loses that.
That's how you know
briefly.
stuff's getting serious.
Yeah, when McGonagall's dropping the books, yeah, there must be something up.
The
But
shit just got real.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
assures him that the stone is quite well protected, which she is absolutely right about, even if most of the protections are redundant when you get to the end.
Right.
And they try and basically make this plan to protect the stone themselves and send Hermione to the staff room to keep an eye on Snape, which is hilarious.
Right.
The little bit
Yeah.
of kind of trio ribbing here, as Ron just makes a jab about, isn't it obvious? You can ask, oh, Professor Flitwick, I'm so worried. That was funny.
The smart one, it'll work.
Yeah, and Ron and Harry go and stand outside the third floor corridor, which McGonagall finds them again, which I laughed out loud. I suppose you think you're more dangerous.
You're more difficult to get past than a pack of enchantments. Yeah,
you can just see her like immediately reeling off that line, and it's brilliant. It's almost one of those things that you'd have happen with an actual
It
teacher
is also
in your
like
school.
As far as like also like future knowledge of the books goes, like when we know what wizards like Snape and Voldemort are like capable of, like what would they have possibly done if they like nothing, just gotten killed.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
And I also had a little comment she has about like, yes, Gryffindor from your own house, Weasley. It's another one of those J.K. Rowling like keeping prose kind of within the dialogue, and holding it there and still making it work. Having a natural flow for it too, and also I like how Hermione like at the end of their conversation goes like, "Oh, shut up," but then like still does what they tell her to do, which is it's standing outside, even though she says not to.
Yeah, that particular paragraph flows really well. It's a nice cut-off point for the dialogue. You're right. I love that moment, and I love how most of the dialogue interacts with the rest of the description on these pages. This chapter is surprisingly funny, given the kind of darker content that's going on. And it's mostly because of that. It's comedic
I think
timing.
it maintains it's funny up until Two-Face shows
right.
up.
Yeah, precisely.
I think before that, like I think it's still kind of I guess Ron getting like hammered by a freaking queen, but other than that,
yeah,
I will say this.
My favorite little bit.
I just real quick, like just on that point. When I read it, I wasn't exactly like afraid for Ron. I remember just reading it and going, he'll be all right. But like in the movie, it's a surprisingly dark moment.
Oh yeah, because they're frightening.
Play it out
like,
more, yeah.
When the pawns bring out their swords, you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, they realised
afraid.
those pieces very well in the films. Just the sinister position, the way they kind of jerked into action after so much just standing still. It was really well done.
It also did a good job of establishing just why this chess set is actually a barrier. Why you can't just walk around the pieces and go to the other door. It's like, no, they'll freaking attack you.
Yeah, but we're jumping ahead a bit. That's one of the obstacles. So
Sorry.
Before we get to that, we have Harry obviously resolving that he's going to get the stone himself when he realises that they're not able to protect it and they've lost track of Snape in the day. It's kind of the moment where the trio is 100% cemented at this point because Hermione and Ron both immediately step up to the plate and say, "Yeah, we're going to help you. Of course we are. Why wouldn't we?"
Yeah, even if it's
and this little bit even.
Yeah, even if they get expelled for it.
Yeah.
Well,
and this little bit has one of my.
Not getting expelled because I did the
Right.
best ever on my Flitwick exam.
Yeah,
like,
that's my favorite comedic moment in this chapter.
Yeah. Especially for Hermione because she doesn't get many comedic moments. Usually Ron that has it or her Harry.
Right.
They're not throwing me out after that. 112%.
That's like again, that's
Which they still could.
Jumping, jumping to conclusions. I like the idea of like McGonagall hearing like want to bet, Miss Granger? You're out of here, But anyway, so what next? Like,
they prep to leave as they're waiting for their. I love the visual of them all just sitting in the common room, kind of prepping their own individual ways, and as they wait for people to kind of filter back upstairs and go to bed. Which is kind of another assumption. I mean, they think that everyone's going to be going to bed before the stone gets stolen. I mean, that's probably a risk.
I mean, that kind of, isn't that the way it kind of goes? Like, the whole common room does just go to bed conveniently for hijinks to ensue throughout these books.
Yeah, with the sole exception of Neville. Yeah. We get another armchair turn moment.
Mm-hmm.
He comes around and goes, "What do you think you're doing?" And this is kind of the conclusion of his arc for this book. This is him stepping up.
It's really like the last time he's relevant for quite a while, actually. Like he's in like the next two books, but his backstory isn't alluded to again until Goblet, and then like he becomes like
fully in the fifth book. Yeah.
Then he steps up to be one of the kind of Silver Trio members. I love the audacity, like Ron, or the reaction of Ron has to his audacity. When he's like, "What are you doing, Neville?" It's like, you told me to stick up to people.
You were the one who told me that to people.
Not to us. Yeah.
He's
Have
not
some
wrong.
common sense.
It's the way it's written. Ron seems so personally affronted by this. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
How dare you do this?
Like, go on, try and hit me. I'm ready.
Yeah, it's so funny, but at the same time, it's a good moment for Neville. It's a nice little first kind of end beat to his arc, and sets him up for when he does come back into the series later on.
Very endearing.
Yeah, it does really endear you to him, because he's doing the right thing as far as he's aware.
And it's funny that you bring up arcs. I want to bring that up again when we do the chess stuff or all the stuff within the Trapdoor sequence, because there's an interesting thing about arcs within this book.
And next, obviously, Peeves is the next minor obstacle before we get to the proper obstacles. They stumble upon him, and he's...
Well, I mean, should we mention how they disable Neville too?
Well,
They
I suppose,
freeze him,
yeah.
push him
To be fair,
Yeah.
Hermione...
Full body bind.
Yeah, full body binds him, which is another kind of capstone, because earlier in the book, obviously, his situation was her helping him with that. So it's a nice little inclusion.
Ironic.
But then we get them leaving. They put on the cloak and they head towards the trapdoor. Peeves intercepts them at one point, which is unusual because they're supposed to be completely undetectable in that thing. But he senses their presence.
But people can hear when they bump into shit. I think he just heard creaking, and it was like he didn't know if it was a ghost or what it was. He just knew something was there. And then,
which is how they get past him. They take advantage of the fact they can't see him and they just impersonate the Bloody Baron.
Yes,
somehow.
It's a nice, smart moment from Harry there. It's a clever idea. And they also meet Fludge's cat, Mrs. Norris. Like, oh, come on, just this once. Let's just give her a swift kick. Another thing that had me, laughing in this. But yeah, then we get to obviously the true obstacles and the start of the proper, real part of the chapter, which is the first bit one of Fluffy.
Harry always gets presents for Christmas that are like plot relevant. It's I think the only reason he got that flute was for this, so that he would have something to put the dog to sleep with. When in the movies he's just conveniently already asleep because the harp was
it's
playing.
It's an enchanted harp.
Yeah, which makes more sense to me in a way than just being able to awkwardly blow a flute and sort of put it to sleep.
The dog just passes out the second something that sounds vaguely like music.
Bit of a stretch.
There's a couple things. There's a couple things in this latter part of the book that I think work better on film, and that's one of them.
Yeah, the adaptation definitely did that better, I think.
Am I going to be able to put Fluffy to sleep by humming the Imperial March?
Right, that's more or less what's happening.
But the thing is, as well,
with that in mind, that is the least imposing obstacle ever that you could just come in and put it to sleep. It's done. I didn't need to be Voldemort to figure that out.
I mean, a lot of these obstacles are kind of it's it's a kid's book obstacle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's you wouldn't really make this your security system.
The thing I like about the harp adaptation
an 11-year-old can do it, literally.
The thing I like about the harp adaptation as well, though, is that there's a reason they have to jump down the trapdoor in such a rush, because in the book I'm thinking, you're kind of being a bit stupid. You could have been killed by the first obstacle just being too much of a height for you. This is a really bad idea, guys. But with the ending of the harp cutting off in the film, they gave no reason to just, oh god, we have to go now, otherwise we're going to be eaten. There was no... obviously they want a time crunch in the book as well, but it wasn't quite as immediate, so I liked it for that as well. But they drop down. Nice little moment from all three of them, really, because it's kind of terrifying to jump into a hole that you can't see the bottom of, and they land on the first obstacle, or second obstacle, I guess, from Sprout, Devil's Snare. Another really fun moment.
I think this is one of the more chilling things, this is creepy, I probably wouldn't, I don't think I would have gotten past the first challenge either, but I definitely would have been done in here. If this was me, I'd be done at challenge 2.
Yep.
If I knew what to do, it'd be fine, but otherwise, it would be pretty horrific.
It's another example of the more eldritch aspects of the Harry Potter universe, just the magical plants and magical animals, and it's so simple, and I kind of get the impression that in the sort of landscape where there are lots and lots of vines, this thing's probably hiding, which is kind of frightening.
Yeah, that would be... It would be horrible to meet in the middle of a dense jungle. There's that one vine that grabs you and you're dead. If you don't know.
My dad really loved this sequence because he's a very zen dude who loves chilling out, whatever, and the whole thing is about just chilling out. So whenever we watch this scene together, he would always be like, "See what I'm talking about, kids? You just gotta chill."
That's so weird. Of all the Harry Potter moments that you could go, this is a teaching moment. That's so not on my radar. This is what you got to do when you run into killer plants.
Chillax, you guys are freaking out. Just relax.
But yeah, we get another one of the funniest moments in the chapter for me, which is Ron going, "Are you a witch or not?" It's fine.
And I am disappointed that did not make its way into the film, and instead this turned into the very first of the Hermione being Legolas affected.
Yes, yeah, you're not wrong. She does, even to the extent where instead of using the bluebell flames that have been coming up throughout the book in different contexts, she just does the full-on, like, is it Lumos Solaris? I can't remember, but blasts the thing with a Lumos spell instead, which is fine. It's serviceable, but I think that the humor of this moment works better for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I prefer the idea of her using the spell as well because, well, personally, I'm a huge fan of just having a singular ability that you can figure out that's super simple, and because of that, you can use it for so many different applications.
Yes, especially considering these guys are first years. Works particularly well for that reason.
As well as just the idea of maybe Hermione turning into like a fire magi. Missed opportunities.
But yeah, so that's Devil Snares one sorted, but then they move on to the key chamber, Flitwick's obstacle. It's at this point I kind of realised that she's actually done a very good job of this rolling, because looking back on it in the past, I thought, some of them had more to do than others. But in actuality, if you count the individual moments that they have on small and large scale throughout this chapter, every single member of the trio has four significant moments where they contribute in some way to the kind of continuation of their journey here. So she did a really good job. If you go through back and count them all, it's worth doing.
What are Ron's for?
There's a moment of bravery. There's the working out the lock in this room that they're looking for something old. There's
he says
the
that.
chess
Okay.
set. Obviously, that's the big one. And there's another one I can't remember. I did count them all though. There's 4 for each, with a possible 5 for Harry, depending on how you count it. But that's to be expected. He's the main character. But yeah, it was very well balanced though. She portioned out the kind of responsibilities well there. And yeah, they have the snitch moment, because this is Harry stepping up, and not for nothing was he the first youngest seeker in a century. They work together and capture. That's key. Not much to talk about there. They move on to the next room.
Well, actually, one thing worth talking about
anything?
is the difference in the adaptation. The book very specifically mentions that the keys don't attack Harry.
Right.
You just have to fly through the swarm finding them. Whereas in the movie, the second you touch that broom,
very true. Which
that's just
example.
film trying to make it more exciting, for a visual medium.
But to be fair, that also makes a lot more sense, because if you're trying
it
to
works
stop,
better that way.
if you're trying to stop them from
way
going,
easy to just spend some time in here.
I do think that like Voldemort would have just blown through all these. Like he would just immobilize the keys and taken the one he needed and opened it and like fuck that. I'm done with that. Like I'm fucking Voldemort. Like he would have been on. But like for the kids, it does need to be hard. Otherwise, what's the point of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and I also like that Ron and Hermione actually got to fly with him. As opposed to before, they're just like on the ground, kind of waiting for Harry to be Harry. But they also there is a strategy that they have in how they get the flying key, and that's like Ron I think at top and Hermione on the bottom, so it's like there's teamwork at play. It's like a little Quidditch game they're playing, rather than just being Harry in his heroics.
Yeah, it's a nice little trio moment, because to be fair, especially moving on to later films, they don't really act as a trio unit very often. They're obviously all contributing to various different things and working as a team, yes, but in terms of specific,
played the Prisoner of Azkaban video game where you have to use all 3 in conjunction.
Which was so good. Best part of that game, no question. But yeah,
it's also one of the few times Hermione uses a broom in any serious capacity.
Yes, and without any complaint, she just jumps straight on and does it. Because she's not a big fan of flying, to put it mildly. But yeah, it's just nice that they get to work, as a specific unit, as a team, directing each other and doing basically the same thing in conjunction. So yeah, it was very cool for that reason. But yeah, then we move on to the next obstacle, which is the chess set. Ron's shining moment. I like how he's like, now, no offense, guys, but neither of you are particularly good at chat. And Harry's like, no offense, just let's go, do it. Guys.
Right? Yeah, we're not finna. Just help. I can tell. I can hear when he said that line. It wasn't just like, we're not offended. Just tell us what to do. It's like it's literally just like, dude, just tell us. We don't give a crap about you trying to do this or not.
But not in an irritated way.
It's almost
it's just you can hear him
when you have
a direction. It's leader mode kind of thing.
But the way you guys just read that, it's almost like Ron's inner Percy showed for a second there. like when he said that.
Yeah. Now, don't be offended.
That almost never happens, but there's that one time.
Yeah, this is kind of that one moment that stands out in the series as being Ron's moment. He doesn't really have anything this specifically, him again throughout the entire series. He has individual moments where he is useful, but this is the one kind of everyone thinks of, and it's a shame that this doesn't come up again on a large scale.
King, much? not needing Felice to do it.
Oh, of course, no, he has moments, but
No, I'm just.
but obstacle clearance for the team. He's not the brightest star on the show.
I think what Colin means is like this is sort of set up
Yeah.
as like in Ron's wheelhouse, like he's the chess guy.
Right.
Yeah, and I wish his kind of strategic skills came up as well, because that would have been a really cool tool to have in his shed. But regardless, it does what it needs to for the rest of the series.
And as we mentioned earlier, this portion was carried off brilliantly in the movie because it made the chess pieces scary as fuck.
Yes, it did. Yeah. I love the visuals in the film. Like, to me, they are now what is in the book, even though they're mildly described mildly differently. I love the way they captured that, the atmosphere, the lighting, the emotion of the actual pieces, especially given the budget at the time.
Yeah, I even like the detail in the film of how, even though they didn't have the White King take off his crown and toss it at Harry's feet, they at least kind of alluded to that description by having him drop the sword.
It was very cool, and the clattering and the weight of the thing in front of them. It was really dramatic. I loved it. And as we said before, Ron's sacrifices just gets hammered in the side of the head.
Because it's like, Jesus, you're being attacked by that 15-foot stone monolith. You're alive?
Yeah, and he was riding the knight as well in the film, and so when the blade is sliced through, it made sense he was thrown back.
It's kind of like what Newt's commander was saying about Muggles as opposed to wizards. Like, we're not as susceptible to head breakage, So if he wasn't a wizard in that situation, that kid is brain dead, brain dead at best, or just dead,
Just dead.
Even in the book, though, to be fair, he does get like a complete clobbering in the side of the head. So yeah, it's
right.
Definitely worse in the film, but still bad in both.
After that, the queen drags him and throws him off the.
It's because that's not the end of the game until they obviously make the final move. Yeah, it's very cool. But then we get this one was omitted from the film entirely. The next obstacle, which is the troll.
Yes. I just want to be on record saying that if I could only put one scene from this book back into the film, this would be it.
I think it's fine because the way they do it in the movie is that Hermione's thing was Devil's Snare, and then Harry's thing was the key, and then Ron's thing was the chess pieces. So it's kind of okay in the way they did that in the movie, because I can see this definitely works really well in prose. I think. I mean, it kind of could work for film as well, but it's not the most visually thrilling thing.
It's like this is the sort of thing where
I was lost for a second there. Sorry, I said the troll and thought you wanted this in the film, but yeah, no, you mean the riddle.
Oh, you thought I meant the troll?
You mean the riddle?
The troll is next on the list, so I was with Callan. I thought Evan, are you joking?
Yeah, I was going to say. I thought he was being sarcastic.
Yeah,
this is the bit.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
It's mentioned so sparingly in the book.
Of course, yeah, but it makes perfect sense to cut that, which is what I was saying. But then you said the opposite, so I thought you were being sarcastic.
Sorry.
But yeah, riddle, I completely agree. Absolutely should have been kept in. But by the same token, Antoine, you're right. They did give each character their individual moment in the film.
It also would have slowed down the momentum. Like, let's have a conversation about how wizards are kind of dumb in the middle of like this. Like, we need to move forward. Of
course, what I find so interesting about this whole section, like, even though it's what the traps, the protections and wards set up say about the teachers who set them up. It's like Professor Sprout, it's like her thing is the Devil's Snare, and the way you get by that is by having knowledge of the Devil's Snare. It's, the know-how. It's the Hufflepuff approach. Whereas the whole thing with the keys, it's Flitwick's emphasis on skill, because that's essentially what he's specifically known for, is his technical skill as a magic user. And then you got the chess set, which is McGonagall, which is a combination of bravery and cunning, because you're having to play a game of chess against pieces that'll beat your head in. And then the whole thing with the troll, which is Quirrell's influence from Voldemort. His emphasis, also his influence from Voldemort, his emphasis on strength and power. What sort of guard does Quirrell put in place? Well, basically just a cudgel, walking cudgel.
You've got to remember as well that supposedly, everyone else knows what his obstacle was. Well, they do know what his obstacle was. So when the troll was let in at Halloween, did no one think, that didn't raise any red flags, which is odd.
Oh, and also with the chess piece, it's like any chess, like computer system of chess will beat any human. So then it's like, then I wonder, is it like they are independent of McGonagall, or is it just like McGonagall's skill as a chess player it's her
best
cap,
game,
and
yeah.
Ron basically beat McGonagall, not beat like because anyone should not be able to win. Right, like what's the limit of the chess pieces and everything?
Yeah.
Kind of want to see a chess match between the two of them now, like for real.
That'd be so funny. Can you imagine if Ron beat him and just McGonagall's reaction? She's just looking up and he goes, Very well, Mr. Weasley.
For the potion sequence, while I don't think it would have lended itself very well to a movie, if this was a TV series, I think it would fit in nicely because you can do more with like pacing on TV than you can with like 2.5 hour bit of celluloid.
I figure
you can stretch the sequences out without it feeling like you're wasting time as much.
But even in a movie, though, I feel it would have been better had it been like an earlier challenge. Like this being like the last one, it would slow the pace.
Right? Yeah, because it doesn't rev up.
Yeah.
Like in the movie where it's like not me, not Hermione, you got to go on. It's like that feels like, okay, Harry, go. Like it's the end now. Go. Move. We don't have time for the potion thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, because of the time we're allocated in the book, it feels like a nice dramatic moment. It's a good way of sending Hermione back. It's a good way of cutting Harry off from her without it being contrived or feeling completely contrived. And it also gives you the dramatic effect of him literally stepping through the fire and stepping through and getting that immediate reveal, just the visual of having the flames pass away, and then he sees the end of the chapter. But yeah,
it's totally fine in the book. Yeah, I'm saying movie adaptation. I totally agree. It works very well.
It's just interesting how it does for one, not the other, considering the pacing differences. It's just nice to see the difference in medium there. But yeah,
and I love the line.
Oh, sorry.
Well, the line brought up by Hermione that great wizards, like the greatest ones ever, like they don't have any logic, and that is basically her superpower. Not just because she's very smart, but she comes from Muggles and she's dealing with all these wizard-based challenges, and then this one is like, wait, this is totally made for me or anybody who comes from my world could, technically do this and thrive because we don't rely on magic and we have, logic is more in tune with Muggles.
Magic makes people lazy, or it can.
It also by that nature defies the idea of magic, because magic is the power of the abstract, so you don't really need logic as much. It makes sense that a culture based on magic would most likely
would be that way.
Slide on the logic front.
Exactly.
Only the individuals like Snape and Hermione and that lot would be the ones driving it forward. So not as.
Literally, they have a test at the beginning of this chapter trying to make pineapples tap dance. There's not a lot of logic involved, in this world.
It's just skill based on that front. Yeah. Oh yeah. I also like how this particular obstacle of the riddle kind of cements Hermione's Gryffindorness as well. It highlights why she is in Gryffindor, that she values the traits she does over her own cleverness. Books' cleverness, there are more important things.
Right, when he brings that up.
Yeah, it's kind of her moment for this chapter, and justifying her place on the team alongside her own actual skill. So it's her skill and her qualities that bring her here, along with Ron's sacrifice.
It's kind of all of them, yeah. Like even Ron, like he outsmarted the board. Like he didn't outbrave it, but you need bravery to face that thing down.
Yeah.
But like Connor said, you have to outwit it, and it's in a way like the most likely ones to stand up to these challenges are the two extremes between like being driven by courage or ambition. With Slytherin.
Yeah,
which is cool. Also the greatest irony in that going into the next chapter, all of the tests up until the mirror in the next chapter are all about setting a false expectation. You think that the way to get the Philosopher's Stone is through skill and power as a wizard because you're being faced by all of these technical challenges, and then in the next chapter, you're faced by the mirror, which is something completely different.
Which is ironic because, like, now that you say that, everything except for the actual troll test was basically just the teachers trolling Voldemort because he could never have gotten it. Yeah. Like, each test that he passes is just me going, oh, I'm getting closer. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I'm screwed.
It's
just
hilarious. We'll see how that goes.
It may as well just been the mirror of Erised on the front garden of Hogwarts. As long as no one else could look at it and only Voldemort could, it would be completely safe. I love that, and I love what happens in the next chapter describing that as well. But yeah, Harry steps through the flames, and we get a really, really good ending to this chapter with the line of it wasn't.
There was someone already there, but it wasn't Snape. It wasn't even Voldemort.
Yeah, it's a really good ending for that one.
That's the kind of ending of a chapter where you literally cannot not read the next chapter because that is so compelling. Like that's exactly what every writer wants to do at the end of a chapter.
Indeed. And she does it almost all the time anyway. But this is one of her best.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt any kid put the book down after that.
I like the idea that someone's like mom or dad who reads them bedtime stories. Like, oh, you have to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal the
How
books
dare
from
you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a brilliant one. Yeah, that's the end of chapter 16, Through the Trapdoor. We shall see you next week for chapter 17, A Man with Two Faces. The Man with Two Faces. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you next time, guys. I am Ricky Ford, and I still have an outro.
Gridget and 91, goodbye.
Evan
Gents-
Hey, I promise.
Always.
One
He's ready to
day.
do something.
One
He's ready to
day.
do something. That's why.
Evan 95. We hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys later.
All right. Gensur I1, teach us something, please.
Antoine Bandelet, mischief managed.
Goodbye.